Hey guys, it's Mr. Fingland here with The Grapes of Wrath, book review, chapters 6 and 8. All right, so basically, hopefully you've started reading The Grapes of Wrath, and I hope you're noticing a trend, right, where we have you read the first 3 chapters to get a sense of the sort of like the zoom in and zoom out chapters, and then we're really focusing on you reading just the plot chapters, just the chapters where Tom Joad is coming home from prison, right? And that's what chapter 6 and chapter 8 are. Now, I think you'll find it's a really accessible book, plain people speaking plain language, talking about their lives. And I think that's what's really happening in the first 10 chapters of The Grapes of Wrath, is that Steinbeck is trying to show us what it was like to be a sharecropper in Oklahoma in the 1920s and 30s. And getting a sense of like the people, the culture, the family, the way of life, all right? And so a lot of that is established in these chapters with little anecdotes. Just like in the beginning of the year, we wrote anecdotes about ourselves. We're kind of getting anecdotes about different people, about Jim Casey, right? The ex-preacher who baptized Tom. Anecdotes about Tom and his family, talking about things that have happened. And when we meet in chapter 6, Muley Graves, another character who talks pretty poignantly about what it was like growing up there, and keeping in mind that this is a time when everyone has to leave. So all these little stories about their lives came about just as all our stories about our lives came about. But suddenly they have to leave, and we have this sort of connection established. So the questions you have in the study guide there are really about plot points and important little pieces of detail, so try your best to answer those. I'm going to try to sort of lead my discussion in the way to help you understand those today, and you're welcome to use insight from this discussion to answer those questions in the study guide. I know it can look a little bit daunting, but it's really quite easy. Right? The first question, in chapter 6, this sort of moment of realization, right? Tom's coming home, he's been out of contact for 4 years, and as you'll read in chapter 6, his family isn't a writing family. His dad can basically write, but they don't write. Right? The only time they see writing is usually when something's being taken away from them, right? When they're signing a mortgage or something they don't really understand. So literacy is not a big deal, and it wasn't really needed, for these guys who were working their acreage and supporting themselves. But here's this moment, it's on page 43, where Tom has this revelation, and it comes when a cat shows up, right? When he and Jim Casey are sitting at his abandoned house. He knows his family's gone, but there's something bigger that he realizes. Joad glanced around at it. By God, look who's here. Somebody stayed. He put out his hand, but the cat leaped away out of reach and sat down and licked the pads of its lifted paw. Joad looked at it, and his face was puzzled. I know what's the matter, he cried. That cat just made me figure what's wrong. Seems to me there's lots wrong, said Casey. No, it's more than just this place. Why didn't that cat just move in with some neighbors, with the Rances? How come nobody ripped some lumber off this house? Ain't been nobody here for 3-4 months, and nobody stole no lumber. Nice planks on a barn shed, plenty good planks on the house, window frames, and nobody's took 'em. That ain't right. That's what's bothering me, and I couldn't catch hold of it. Well, what's that figure out for you? Casey reached down and slipped off his sneakers and wriggled his long toes on the step. I don't know. Seems like maybe there ain't any neighbors. If there was, would all them nice planks be here? Why, Jesus Christ, Albert Rance took his family, kids and dogs and all, into Oklahoma City one Christmas. They was going to visit with Albert's cousin. Well, folks around here thought Albert moved away without saying nothing. Figured maybe he got debts or some woman squaring off at him. When Albert come back a week later, there wasn't a thing left in his house. Stove was gone, beds was gone, window frames was gone, and 8 feet of planking was gone off the south side of the house so that you could look right through her. He come driving home just as Muley Graves was going away with 3 doors and the well pump. Took Albert 2 weeks driving around the neighbors before he got all his stuff back. Casey scratched his toes luxuriously. Didn't nobody give him argument? All of 'em just give the stuff up? Sure, they wasn't stealing it. They thought he left it, and they just took it. He got all of it back, all but a soft pillow, velvet with a picture of an Injun on it. Albert claimed Grandpa got it. Claimed Grandpa got Injun blood, that's why he wants that picture. Well, Grandpa did get her, but he didn't give a damn about the picture on it. He just liked her. Used to pack her around and put her wherever he was going to sit. He never would give her back to Albert. Says if Albert wants the pillow so bad, let him come and get her. but he better come shooting, because I'll blow his goddamn stinking head off if he comes messing around my pillow. So finally, Albert gave up and made Grandpa a present of that pillow. Right. So nice little excerpt there. Really, down to earth people, right? This, but the gist of it is this is a community where you don't waste stuff. If you see it sitting, it gets taken. Not thievery, not being stolen, but it gets put to use. And Tom, sitting there in his abandoned house that's been kind of crushed over with cotton planted all over the place. He's saying, well, it's not just that my family's gone, it's that all the families are gone, right? And that's something that's later confirmed when Muley Graves shows up, right? Muley Graves is this character who, unlike all the other tenant farmers, hasn't left, right? He had a wife and kids. They went to California. He wouldn't stay. And so a lot of this chapter is talking, kind of like the anecdote with Grandpa and the pillow, which is kind of like, you're learning a little bit about Grandpa, and he's ornery, and he's tough, and he's not going to give that pillow back. You learn a lot about Muley Graves, too, right? Muley Graves is so connected to the land, he let his wife and kids go to California, and he wouldn't, right? And he tells some great stories in the next few pages about, about how these people came, they pushed him off, and if they hadn't wanted him gone, he probably would have left. But he also has some really compelling stories to tell about growing up in the land, about his father's death and how his father's blood is in the land, and that's why he can't leave. And Muley's sort of, he's, as he says, he's a little bit touched, right? He's gone a little bit crazy thinking about this, right? The other thing about Muley is he's kind of symbolic in a way, because he shows up, he meets Casey and Tom on the Jodes' porch, and he has food with him. He has a sack with rabbits in it, and he. These men, it's getting to be dark, they're done for the day, and there's that question of, what are they going to eat? They figured there'd be someone at home to cook food, but there wasn't. So the question there that you have about question 4 there, what is Jim Casey referring to when he says Muley's got a hold of something? You're going to find that on page 49, all right? On page 49, Muley shares his food. Right? He's got these rabbits that he's caught in snares, and Steinbeck takes a good time talking about how they get the rabbit prepared, and how it's appreciated, but also this idea of sharing as sort of essential to survival for these people. Page 49. Casey picked up one of the cottontails and held in his hand. "You sharing with us, Muley Graves?" he asked. Muley fidgeted in embarrassment. "I ain't got no choice in the matter." He stopped on the ungracious sound of his own words. "That ain't like I mean it. That ain't... I mean," he stumbled. "What I mean, if a fella's got something to eat and another fella's hungry, well, the first fella ain't got no choice. I mean, suppose I pick up my rabbits and go off somewheres and eat them? See?" "I see," said Casey. "I can see that. Muley's got something there, Tom. Muley's got a hold of something, and it's too big for him, and it's too big for me." All right? That idea of a big philosophical concept, is at the heart of this book. Right? What happens when things go down the tubes, right? What happens when society starts breaking down, when a whole way of life changes? Well, people start looking to each other to get through it together, right? Pretty good analogy for the times we're living in. But that idea, well, Muley, he's there with two guys. What's he going to do? Go and hide out and eat 3 rabbits worth of food and not share with these hungry men? That would be unethical. Right, and I think that's something we're getting to in the center of this chapter. Right. So, a couple more questions about Tom there. He talks about Muley asks him about the situation that got him in prison. Right, that comes up with on page 53, where it turns out Tom knew the man that he ended up killing, and he liked him, but it was they were drunk, they were at a bar. And he doesn't really feel guilty. He would have done it again, he says. So that's an interesting philosophical idea about killing that's going on, right? The last question there, the questions are about Willie Feely. Now, Willie Feely's this guy on page 55 who's the tractor driver who pushes people off the land, right? So he's a local guy who got a job driving the tractor that planted the cotton and knocked over the Jodes' house, and he's in this position where he's actually got a job and he's staying in Oklahoma instead of going off to California like everyone else. And the one problem is he's pushing his own people off his land. He's a community member who seems to be turning against his people in favor of the system. And so that's something for you to think about. Look at that on page 55 in the conversation he has with Muley, and you should be able to get to the heart of that. Right. Hey, skipping over to chapter 8, right? Chapter 7 is actually a great chapter. It's about a used car lot, all right? And one of the things I want to impress upon you, we will come back to chapter 7. You're welcome to read it, of course. But, all these people going west to California, how are they going to get there? Suddenly, a lot of people who are pretty impoverished need automobiles to get out to California. Well, this is a good day for the guy who basically owns a junkyard or like a car yard with really decrepit, ancient jalopy cars. So that's chapter 7. Everyone needs a car, so they're going to get one, but they're probably not going to get a great deal on it. Right? Hey, chapter 8 is about the reunion. We learn from Muley in chapter 6 that the Jodes are hanging out at Uncle John's place, right? And because they were evicted first, and Uncle John's time to be evicted is coming up. And so what you're going to see is, a lot of characterization about the Jode family. Finally, Tom is going to come home to his mother. Have a look at that scene where they sort of surprise Ma, right? By showing up for breakfast, and she's ecstatic. But she's also super worried about her son being in prison and what prison's done to him. I mean, he really has two concerns, and that kind of goes with the questions there. Both Pa and Ma. First, because it's not been, he had got 7 years sentence, he's back early. So they first want to know that he hasn't broken out, right? This is the kind of family, they're sort of like, hey, you're not on the run, are you? The second thing that Ma's particularly interested in is whether prison has made Tom mean and mad, right? She's really concerned that is something that's happened to him. He's been broken by prison, So that's a big deal. There's some other characters being described here, right? Uncle John is a fascinating character throughout this piece, right? He's someone who grapples with depression and grapples with the fact that his he used to be a kind of cheap guy, and because of his cheapness, his wife might have died. He's a really fascinating character throughout this piece, and he plays a big role in the end. So have a look at the language about Uncle John in that text, and also we're introduced to Al, who's like the youngest Jode man, right? Who really looks up to Tom and wants to be like Tom, and sort of does things to do what he thinks Tom wants him to do. So pay attention. It's a great family scene. We meet all the Jodes. They're having breakfast together. You've got Grandpa, you've got Grandma, you've got the kids, you've got Noah, another Jode son. It's like a family reunion, and you learn a little bit about all these characters, and that's really the intent of the chapter. So enjoy that, relax about it, don't stress out about reading this book. It's a really fun and really quite easy book to read once you realize that these first 10 chapters are all just about understanding the culture of these people, what they're like, what they believe in, and how they live their lives. Hey, hope this has been helpful. About 14 minutes right now just talking about that. So keep on working on that study guide. Again, give me a call if you need help. My number's right on the packet. Or you can message me or send me an email or something like that. Hey, hope you're having a good time, and hope you're enjoying the snow today. A foot of snow almost. Crazy. Have a good day. Bye-bye.